Alan Hruby pled guilty to 3 charges of first-degree murder for the shooting of his parents, John and Joy Tinker Hruby, and sister Catherine Hruby in October of 2014. The reasons for these murders might shock you. If you enjoy our videos and want to see more, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Alan Hruby lived beyond his means and reveled in the notion that people thought he was wealthy, when in fact his money came from his parents, or from the credit card he stole from his grandmother. After being cut off financially, Alan did the unthinkable. John Hruby from Duncan, Oklahoma, was a publisher at the Marlowe Review, where he worked alongside his wife, Catherine. He was a former publisher of the Duncan Banner, where his late father, Al Hruby, was a former publisher before taking leadership. In 1997, the Hruby family sold the Duncan Banner, and John started working at the Marlowe Review. The couple had a 17-year-old daughter, also named Catherine, and a 19-year-old son, Alan. Catherine was a junior at Duncan High School, while Alan was attending the University of Oklahoma. At around 9 a.m. on the 13th of October 2014, Duncan police received a distraught phone call from the Hruby housekeeper. She said that when she arrived for work, she found the dead bodies of John, Catherine Sr., and Catherine Jr. They'd all been shot dead. Police arrived at the home of 1217 Bentry and sectioned off the scene as the neighbors congregated in the streets. "It's sad. It's very shocking," said one neighbor. "They were a good family. They would always help you out. If your car wouldn't start, they'd come over and jump it, or if your dog ran off, they'd try to help you catch it. You know, just neighborly things." The murders completely terrified the locals, and many were left wondering if it was a robbery gone terribly wrong. However, it would soon become apparent that this was an isolated incident, but was much more complex than initially suspected. Just hours after the grim discovery, Alan was arrested on an unrelated charge. Back in January, Alan had pleaded to a charge of credit card theft. He had stolen his grandmother's credit card. He entered a delayed sentencing program, owed $491.15 in fines and court costs, and had been scheduled to appear in a court on the 12th of November for a final sentencing. When Alan was arrested after the murders, investigators announced that he'd been charged with concealing stolen property in relation to the stolen credit card. However, they then announced that Alan was the sole suspect in the murders of his parents and sister. When Alan was arrested and informed about the murders, he began wailing and crying and having a hard time. However, he soon enough settled down and allowed investigators to interview him. It soon became apparent that Alan was living much beyond his means, and revealed in the notion that people found his wealth to be impressive. Well, his parents' wealth, which he proclaimed to be his own wealth. According to students at the University of Oklahoma, Alan often bragged about how wealthy he was and would go on spending splurges. He wore a Rolex watch, Louis Vuitton shoes, and flew first class. He often tagged his social media posts with expensive and mocked people who ate instant noodles. When he stole his grandmother's credit card, he took a trip to Europe and spent $5,000. 2 years beforehand, he had assaulted his mother during an argument over money. Shortly after his arrest, Alan confessed to the triple murder. He said that he had stolen his father's gun and approached his mother in the kitchen. When Catherine Sr. turned to him, he shot her in the head. After she fell to the floor, she showed signs of life, so Alan advised that he shot a second shot into her. Catherine Jr. was washing her car outside when she came into the kitchen. Alan shot her once. He informed investigators that he believed she died instantly. Alan then waited for his father to come home from work around an hour later. As soon as John entered the home, Alan shot him in the head. He said that his father said ouch as he fell to the ground. He noticed that there were still signs of life, so he shot his father once again. Alan said that after the murders, he took surveillance footage from the home recording system and fled to the University of Oklahoma in the Jeep his father had purchased for him as a gift. He then went to a party at the Ritz-Carlton. According to Alan, he had been motivated to commit the murders because he had been cut off financially. His family said that he could not control his spending. He owed $3,000 to a Norman loan company and was being investigated for having stolen and forged $17,500 worth of checks. Alan stated that he believed if he killed his family, he would inherit their estate. Prosecutors would announce that they were seeking the death penalty against Alan, stating that he had killed for money, that he had killed 3 people, and that he was a continued threat to society. And because the murders were especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, they noted that the evidence against Alan was overwhelming. In addition to his confession, his DNA was found on blue gloves that were recovered with the handgun. Allen would eventually plead guilty to 3 counts of murder and was sentenced to serve 3 consecutive life sentences without parole and no contact with his family or the media. His family had requested the life sentences, and according to the district attorney Jason Hicks, if they had not done so, he most likely would have been sentenced to death. The purpose of Allen not having contact with his family or with the media was to avoid the possibility of a book or movie deal where Allen would profit.